Are you having terrible race starts? Do people keep driving into you? Are you regretting getting into sim racing? Great, that is how it should be. But in order to make it better for you, I've put together 5 pro tips for getting the most out of the race start and the first laps of the race. To make this video, we jumped into low fuel motorsports with Assetto Corsa Competizione, Oulton Park at night. Positively one of the worst possible combinations for a clean race start. Tip number 1, and the most obvious one, so I'm going to get it away straight away, is that you want to qualify as high as possible. I know that's so obvious it's stupid, but I would say from my experience, top 6 is the absolute sweet spot. If you think about it, if you're in 6th place, that's 2 cars in front of you, 3 cars to your right, you're much less likely to be punted in that position. Also, the further forward you are, the less of a concertina effect and erraticness that you're going to get when accidents inevitably happen. Mind you, you're probably crap like me, maybe impulsive, and maybe just can't be asked to practice, so your qualifying is going to suck. So with that in mind, let's move on to the next tip. Tip number 2, the inside of the corner is your best friend. Generally, you want to be taking corners as tight as possible and putting your car on the inside line of corners, even on corners where it might not be the most optimal thing to do. Now, the further back you are, the less of an issue it will be that you're offline, because nobody is going to be at actual race pace. Further forward you are, you're probably still going to actually have to concentrate on doing proper race lines and not want to compromise too much. There is balance there and there is decisions to be made, but generally speaking, if you put your car on the inside of a corner, you're far less likely to get contacted, especially when things are getting really hectic and maybe you might have 2 other cars racing you. The car on the outside is the most likely to get hit from the cars on the inside understeering off into the outside position. Also, if you're on the inside, someone can't really make a stupid lunge up the inside of you because you're already on the inside. So again, it reduces the chance of someone ploughing into you, though they probably still will do. But make friends with the inside of the corner in the first 2 or 3 laps and you'll probably have a better time. Tip number 3, eyes forwards. What you really need to be doing at the start of a race is really being aware of what's happening far in front of you and being aware of how that is going to affect things when that wave of chaos and death arrives to your position. It's easy to get completely fixated on what's happening in the 1 meter bubble around your car and the vehicle behind you that apparently is trying to shark attack your leg off. You have to be aware of what's happening close to you, but at the same time, if you've got a plan for what's happening in front of you, you will more likely avoid the accident that is happening in front of you and capitalise on it with some beautiful, glorious freebie race positions. If it wasn't for those free positions, I would always lose races. I love people that crash. They're the best people, as long as they don't crash into me. Tip 4, create space. Now, this is controversial and will massively depend on the type of race you're doing, the type of cars you're driving, and the skill of the drivers around you. But it can really pay off to actually leave a little bit of space in front of you. If you know that you're not in a position to get a good overtake on the cars in front, or it looks like there's likely to be a disaster with the cars in front, don't put yourself in a position of pure mental attack. Sometimes it's better to let the places come to you. That's going to require a bit of race knowledge, racecraft and experience, because sometimes if you create space they will just disappear off into the distance and you've not helped yourself. But after a while, and after too many years of sim racing or too many online races, you start to get an intuition as to what is happening with the cars in front and if you actually yourself have the pace to be able to pass them or keep up with them. Keeping space there is much more likely to allow you to do better in the race. This is even more applicable in GT3 racing with low fuel motorsport and longer races. I don't understand why people go full Jaws shark attack sometimes at the start of a race that lasts over 30-40 minutes. The time you're going to lose from a contact or damage is going to be far greater than that 1 or even 2 positions in the opening laps of a race. Again, this is a very complicated one and it's very situation dependent. But the more space you have, the more time you have. And the more time you have, the better you'll do. Mahatma Gandhi said that once. Tip number 5, be as pessimistic and cynical as possible. If you ever wondered why British people tend to be pretty good at motorsport, this is why. Always expect the other drivers to do the dumbest thing and the stupidest thing you can imagine. And they probably will do that. So if you've got that in your mind, you're ready for any eventual outcome. Now, if you do know the other drivers you're driving with and you have qualified really high and you're in a top split, you're familiar with who you're racing with, then you can remove some of that cynicism and pessimism. And I would argue one of the most fun parts of sim racing and racing in anything is when you find people that are a similar skill level to yourself and they are not foaming at the mouth rabid morons. But with sim racing being what it is, and let's face it, you have to have a degree of brain damage to bother doing sim racing in the first place, it's always best to err on the side of caution and just assume that everybody doesn't know what a brake pedal is, doesn't know how to keep the brakes on when they crash, or will just forget that tyres have less grip at the start of a race when they are cold. For the 50th time in a row. I don't know how many races people have to do to learn these things. They're probably just excited, and that's good. They're having fun sim racing, and that's what sim racing is about. It's about having fun at the expense of other people. So there you go, guys. Those are the top 5 tips for a race start. You can leave a tip in the comment section, which I'm sure everybody will ignore, and online racing will remain the mess that it always has been. I have been your host, Sir Muscle of Teabag. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. You've got to subscribe, otherwise you will be involved in a brutal T1 incident. Subscribing to this video, tip number 6, will literally make you immune from people crashing into you in driving simulators. No other YouTube channel offers that. What a service. As for the race that we took this video footage from, we finished in 6th place. It was a pretty dull race after the start, but I love Alton Park, so it was fine. It just felt like a nice SAS countryside drive. I actually did the rest of the race with the headlights off for full military training capacity. Take care, guys. Till the next one. Happy tea drinking, and goodbye.